Hello, and welcome to another episode of GoodCast, a podcast produced by Goodwill North Central Texas. It's a show where we take a closer look at the education, training, and job placement opportunities made possible thanks to the generous donations of everyday people. Today, we're continuing our series focusing on local partnerships that help our programs run. For this episode, I spoke with Veteran Resource Coordinator Klay Dyess from Texas Workforce to discuss the important work our community is doing to support our veterans. We had a great conversation that I can't wait for you to hear more of, so let's get started.
My name's Klay Dyess. I work for the Texas Veterans Leadership Program as a Veterans Resource Coordinator. I cover Tarrant County and the western aspects of that area, including Parker, Palo Pinto, Hood, Erath, Summerville, and Johnson County. I'm one of roughly 20 Veterans Resource Coordinators in the state. All of us are Iraq or Afghanistan veterans, based on the virtue that we have been in situations that required help a lot of times when we got home and know what the background is in it.
How long have you been part of the team?
I started in March of 2018, so we're looking at a little over 7 years now.
Was that something that you had sort of always focused on, or was the cause specifically what drew you in?
Well, I will say for clarity that the Texas Veterans Leadership Program is part of the Texas Workforce Commission. So I am with the state government. The fact that I have the job now was twofold. One, I was a fellow veteran needing to find employment. And then also I wanted to find a position to where I could be the guy or girl that I didn't have when I got home from Afghanistan and didn't know where to start on finding assistance with employment or rental help or education or anything in between. And so when I would get home from the job that I had at the time, I would get on the state employment website, workintexas.com. And when I saw this job pop up, it just seemed like magic happened, and I applied for it. And a month or so later, I got a call for an interview, and it's been a blessing ever since.
Is that fairly common that you have veterans come back home and then they're sort of like, I don't know what to do now. Like, how do I even begin to find a job?
Oh, it happens all the time. And it happens with folks that did 4 years of service or did 20 to 30 years of service. We get so ingrained in what we're doing on a day-to-day with the military, regardless of what branch you're in, and you showed up at work at this time and this was your task and you knew what you were expected to do, and you decide to leave for whatever reason and you're back out there in the world, which is constantly changing, and it does take time to figure it out sometimes. And that's why it's good to have folks like my teammates to say, we've been there and let's walk you through it, and this is what to expect, for better or worse.
Yeah, because there are definitely skills that translate from a military perspective into the workforce, right?
Absolutely. It's a cliche at this point, but it wouldn't be a cliche if it didn't hold fact to it. We are trained to listen and adapt on our feet, to know when to show up on time, to learn quickly, and to respond to instances where we need to do what we need to for whatever is happening.
So what are some common barriers to employment that veterans are seeing when they leave the service?
Well, it can be a few things, and it's not a reflection on that veteran themselves, whether they did 4 years of service or 30. The job market has changed a lot. I hate to age myself as a elder millennial, but I remember when I first left the Navy almost 20 years ago, it was just, you just put on a suit and go into a store and ask for that manager and shake his hand and let him know who you are and that you'd love to start tomorrow. And as we both know, the world doesn't work that way anymore. There's applicant tracking systems, the way that we do things in the military, where if you're supposed to be somewhere at 7 o'clock in the morning, you're there at 6:30, doesn't happen. So no matter how well prepared you think you are for the civilian world, there are differences that we have to adjust to and be prepared for.
Yeah, I'm sure it's even things like you wouldn't consider, like putting together a resume or, having an Indeed account or something like that. Like these small things that seem integral to finding a job that just like you wouldn't even need to consider while you're active.
Absolutely. And we don't think about those things until it's too late sometimes. And maybe I'm falling on my sword there as one of those folks that knew that I was going to go to college off active duty. But we also anticipate, based on our military service, albeit maybe a little bit hubristic, that's the word to use, that as a veteran ourselves with our training, that's going to be an easy transition out and into the workforce. And sometimes that does not happen.
So what are those first steps that you typically see with veterans when they're entering the workforce?
Well, the first thing to do is before they leave the service to go through what's called TAP, TAP. That's Transitional Assistance Program. And that is a class or classes that are given the last 6 to 12 months of their active duty service. These classes can help with getting your resume put together, how to apply for college, how to apply for the GI Bill, things of that sort. Some people kind of blow it off and use it as an excuse not to work that day. Not that many would do that. But the biggest thing is to prepare ahead of time. And then when you do leave the service, we are very fortunate in this day and world to not have to go through the experiences a lot of the previous generations did without resources, and make sure that you are making those contacts that can assist, whether that be the Texas Veterans Leadership Program or the Texas Veterans Commission, or to put y'all on blast in a good way, VetWorthy, or another nonprofit that can help with resume writing, job placement, financial assistance, anything that you might run into, because it is a dog eat dog world out there now, and you can make every plan and have those set in motion, and things do fall apart sometimes. But that they know that there is a lot of resources out there that will help them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a buddy of mine, he was a mechanic in the Air Force, and he'd been stationed a couple different places throughout his tenure. And then when he came back, I know it was a struggle for him to find a job, and he kind of bounced around from a lot of like positions. He was a tattoo apprentice for a little bit. He was a vet tech assistant, and then he decided he wanted to go to school to be a barber. But in that time before, it felt very tumultuous at times.
Absolutely. I use myself as an example all the time to let people know that they're not alone. I was a hospital corpsman in the United States Navy. That's like a combat medic. So I worked to help folks that were injured in combat. And when I was stateside, I would work with folks that were active duty service members and their family members to get help, whether that be medication or exams or what have you. And then when I left active duty and went to college, I have a degree in English and journalism, of all things. And when I got home from Afghanistan, I said, I have a degree now. I am a combat veteran. I have a degree in English and journalism. I can find a job tomorrow. And it did not happen. And it wasn't any reflection on my ethic or workability, but it is difficult. And I've done the same thing. I worked part-time jobs at department stores and unloaded milk trucks and temp agencies. And it got very frustrating to think that I did everything that I was supposed to do. And it still just felt like I was falling through the cracks. But again, that is just something that does happen. And veterans do need to know that it won't be forever. And there are people that will help.
How do these partnerships between nonprofits and the governments, how do these partnerships sort of alleviate those frustrations for our veterans?
We're all different pieces of the same puzzle. And when you put those pieces together, it makes the entire map of assistance. So Texas Veterans Leadership, for instance, we are a one-stop shop as far as just an initial outreach to help these veterans coming back or that have been out for sometimes 20, 30 years to get connected to resources such as VetWorthy and Goodwill, with their employment, financial assistance, what have you. And there are things that some nonprofits are better at than others or have a more primary focus on. And so it's not a challenge as much as it is a benefit that we all have our strengths and weaknesses to where I can send a veteran to vet worthy at Goodwill for CDL training, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they also happen to need help getting their rent paid, I can follow up with that veteran or coordinate with the Goodwill to get them connected to another nonprofit to get assistance for that veteran and their family. The fact that we all work together, whether we're veterans or not, speaks volumes on the coordination between agencies and nonprofits to get veterans and their families assistance and let them know they're not alone in their fight.
How did these connections start? Is it just sort of word of mouth or networking, or how did y'all's team connect with Goodwill?
Well, again, to age myself, I'm a boots on ground kind of person. So when I started this job in March of 2018, I understood the role that I would have with this job and what I would need to do, and a face and a name to go with an email or a phone call speaks volumes, and to let people know that you're not giving them lip service. So I did what I could as far as research to find nonprofits and organizations within my territory that looked like they would be beneficial to the needs of veterans and their families. And I went and shook a lot of hands and sent a lot of information and reciprocated when I was asked for information on their side. And over the last 7.5 years now, I would like to think that those relationships shine based on the fact that we have a mutual understanding that if I need something, it will be taken care of on the other end or the other way around.
Do you all have a metric for sort of tracking the number of people y'all have served or those services that have been provided?
We do. We have an internal state database with our program.
Okay, that's awesome. I do really like how you touched on that this is a multifaceted approach. Like, obviously job placement and employment is important, but there are so many factors to making sure that a person succeeds, whether it is financial or mental health resources or, housing, things of that nature. How do you go about sort of, I guess, vetting other organizations that provide these services?
Well, that's a very good question. Thank you. You do indeed have to vet for your veterans, no pun intended. And there are some bad actors out there that know that this country does support their veterans and will take advantage of that. It's with a constant partnership. It's with constantly working with a nonprofit such as yourself to where the folks in your fold that will help and will jump at the ability to assist, and the ones that won't. And it's trial and error, and over time you realize the people that you can lean on.
Do you have any personal stories or connections that you have made throughout your tenure? Have you ever had somebody come up and be like, I went through such and such program and, it changed my life, or it made such a huge difference?
It's daily, Justin. It's daily. And with Goodwill, with the American GI Forum, with Community Learning Center, with Combined Arms, United Way, I could go on and on and on. There have been multitudes of times that a veteran just needed a fellow veteran to talk to, and not just given the boilerplate, thank you for your service, we will reach out to you within so many hours, keep your head up, but to just say, look, brother, look, sister, I've been where you're at. I know it's not great right now, but we will get you where you need to be. But it's going to require you to put some legwork in, and then make that effort once you've vetted for your veterans to work with that nonprofit that might be able to help them, that will help them, to get that coordination followed through. And the times that you get that veteran to reply back to you and say, so-and-so got my rent paid for 2 months, or we got connected with an organization that could put food on our table, or I have shoes for my children, or I have a bus pass so I can get to work, or I have a job because of the connection you made with an employer, makes it to where you feel like you've done something at the end of the day.
It really stresses the importance of community, like from the ground up. Community is so important to service members during their active time. Community helps them transition back to civilian life, and the community in the sense that, we're all doing our part as nonprofits or government employees to give people equal footing.
Absolutely. And the reason that veterans call each other brother and sister, regardless of race or where you're from in the world or your orientation or education or otherwise, is because we have all been through the exact same thing, one way or the other. Navy, Air Force, Army, Marine Corps, Coast Guard. And we have that shared experience, and we are brothers and sisters because we have that shared experience, whether you went overseas or not, that civilians a lot of times don't have. We all understand what it is to try to start back from nothing or to have to work together to make sure that the mission is taken care of.
Do you see those needs evolving or shifting in the next couple years for people transitioning into civilian life?
The younger generations, the ones that are getting out now post Afghanistan and Iraq, are coming into a world that I didn't come out of when I left active duty, but they are sharper and have more access to technology and assistance with educational benefits and things of that sort, and also folks that have been there before, regardless of age, that can help them out. They're in a better position than people have been in the past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think especially when you talk about technology is shifting so quickly, like it seems at an exponential rate, so that the technological leads of the workforce today change so much faster than they did, say, like 5 years ago.
Absolutely. It's a day-to-day thing. And the way that we use the internet 5 years ago is different than the way we use it now. The advent of AI, whether that's a good or bad thing, I'll leave that one alone, is definitely something that's out there now. And so it is good to know that folks have opportunities out there to use technology. But with that said, also to have self-reliance on themselves.
I think we've even seen like a subtle shift back towards like people going for technical jobs versus, a 4-year degree or graduate degree, where we're focused on these like careers in CDL or electrical engineering or what have you.
Absolutely. And trades are not going to go away. You're always going to need to get your air conditioner fixed or your car fixed. You're going to need a doctor, a physician, somebody in the healthcare field to assist. And again, as a veteran that left high school in 2001, my generation was go to college, go to college, go to college. And I'm glad that I did. But I also see people that go through apprenticeships, which we are really pushing now. And as you see, I'm sure as well, into the trades, whether that be HVAC or plumbing or electrical or CDL. And those are jobs that aren't going anywhere anytime soon. That gives you job security, good benefits, retirement, and a good way to start out with having to invest another 4 to 6 years of your life into a degree plan that may or may not pan out.
Which I'm sure makes it feel even better to be like, I know just the organization for that. Like, don't even sweat it.
Well, and that's another thing too. Veterans are amendable. I was a corpsman in the Navy. I have a degree in English and journalism. I worked in electrical departments and department stores and unloaded milk trucks. And I've always said that I'd rather know a little bit about a lot of things than a lot about one thing. And even if someone was to work as a CDL driver for some time and they decide over time that's not the right fit for them, they can always segue into another field. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily pigeonholed in that forever, but that would give them job security and a reliable income if they're supporting themselves and or a family.
Right. Yeah, no, I for sure am a proponent in lifelong learning. And I think if you can build a set of skills, even if they're rudimentary, in a lot of fields, then you have a lot of options in your future.
Absolutely.
Was there anything else that you felt like you wanted to touch on from your position?
Other than getting on my typical soapbox, if any veterans or family members are listening to this podcast, any given moment, know that you are not alone in this fight. Whether you're 21 years old or 71, you have people in your corner. Whether you just need to talk to someone, or you want to go back to school, or if you're wanting to find a job, or if you need help paying the bills, there are a lot of people that care about where you're at in your life right now and want to make sure that we do what we can to help you. And that could be working with myself, it could be working with Goodwill, it could be working with another nonprofit. There are so many beautiful people out there that put their heart in wanting to assist, whether they're a veteran themselves or not. And it gives you hope at the end of the day, knowing there's so many good people left out there and you are not alone. And don't let yourself get into a position to where you think that you don't have assistance.
I think that's an awesome message. I love that. It's a good soapbox. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. It really does help having these perspectives on the programs that we offer and the programs that other organizations and facilities have. And it was really great speaking with you.
Likewise, Justin, I look forward to meeting you in person soon. And if there's anything that I can ever do for you or a veteran, please, please, please send my information or reach out and tell James I said hi too.
I can do that. Thank you again to Klay for speaking with us. He's been generous enough to send us a ton of resources available to veterans that we've included in the episode description. Thank you for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. You have been listening to GoodCast, a podcast produced by Goodwill North Central Texas. To stay up to date on all things Goodwill NCT, be sure to check out our social media and sign up for our newsletter. And if you have a second, we'd appreciate it if you could share the show with a friend or leave us a review on iTunes. It is the fastest way to help the show grow. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find podcasts.